Through the corridors of time, one name still carries an air of awe and wonder: Moses. His story is not only about leading a people through the wilderness, but about standing face to face with the divine. What he carried down from the mountain was not ordinary, and the weight of that moment still reaches into our world today. Yet, beyond the stone, beyond the smoke and fire, lingers a mystery that refuses to be silenced. What truly happened when heaven touched earth? What secrets are still hidden behind the commandments that have shaped nations and stirred generations? The truth remains shrouded, waiting for those bold enough to draw nearer. If you feel this mystery stirring in your heart, write 777 inches, the comments, as your sign of standing at the edge of revelation. And to every soul who has supported this channel, especially through your super thanks, your kindness is the reason these stories continue to echo across the world. Now the curtain lifts, the path narrows, and the journey begins. Stay with me, for we are about to step into the mystery of Moses and approach the truth behind the 10 Commandments. The mystery of Moses revealed, the truth behind the 10 Commandments. 3 months had passed since the Israelites had walked out of Egypt's shadows, leaving behind the whips of Pharaoh and the chains of slavery. Their journey carried them through wilderness and dust until they finally came to rest at the foot of a mountain so vast that its peaks disappeared into the heavens. The entire nation gathered there, their tents spread out like waves at the base of Sinai, and an air of expectation trembled across the camp. This was no ordinary mountain. It seemed alive, as though waiting to reveal a secret that had been hidden since the beginning of time. Could this be the place where heaven would finally touch earth? Moses, their leader, understood what the people only sensed in their hearts. He felt the invisible pull drawing him upward, as though the mountain itself was calling his name. Step by step, he climbed, leaving behind the murmurs of the camp below, until the silence of Sinai wrapped itself around him. Then, from the heights, the voice of God broke forth like thunder, clothed in tenderness. Moses, speak to the children of Israel. Tell them that if they obey me and guard my covenant, they shall be my treasured possession among all peoples. For though every land and every nation is mine, you will be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. When now 7, what did those words mean for a people who had only ever known chains and commands from human masters? How could former slaves suddenly be called a kingdom of priests, carriers of holiness in a world filled with idols and empires? The promise was staggering, not just for Israel, but for all humanity. It echoed the eternal truth, later echoed in Scripture: you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Exodus 19:6. Would they accept this sacred identity? And with it, the weight of responsibility that no other nation had ever been offered. As Moses stood between the infinite God and the trembling people, the mountain became more than stone and earth. It became a stage upon which destiny itself was being written. If you were standing among the Israelites that day, hearing Moses descend with those words, how would your heart have responded? Would you have embraced the calling with awe, or hesitated at the thought of being set apart from all others? When Moses descended from the heights of Sinai, the echoes of God's words still thundered in his heart. The people, waiting anxiously at the foot of the mountain, looked toward him with anticipation, their faces filled with both fear and wonder. Moses gathered the elders, the leaders who represented each tribe, and he spoke with a solemn weight in his voice. The Lord has set his eyes upon us. He has chosen us to be his own, a people unlike any other. The question now rests with you: will you walk in his ways? Will you keep his commands? The air grew still. For a moment, it was as if the desert itself held its breath. Then, from every corner of the camp, voices rose together in one unified cry. Not hesitant, not divided, but as if their very souls had been waiting to answer. We will do everything God says. That collective vow must have carried like a mighty wave, echoing against the slopes of Sinai. The sound of an entire nation speaking as one would have been overwhelming. A chorus that shook both the earth beneath their feet and the hearts within their chests. Moses carried their words back to the mountain, lifting them like an offering before the Lord. And God answered, speaking of something that would change history forever. Moses, he declared, I will appear before the people in a thick cloud. Through it, they will hear my voice when I speak to you, and they will believe in you forever. What awe must have filled Moses' heart as he heard those words. This was not only about his role as a prophet, but about the people's trust. God himself was sealing Moses' authority before the eyes of the entire nation. But before that encounter, there was preparation. God's command was clear and uncompromising. Go to the people. Consecrate them today and tomorrow. Let them wash their garments and make ready for the third day. On that day, I will descend upon Mount Sinai in the sight of all Israel. The instruction was more than ritual, it was transformation. Washing their clothes symbolized cleansing their hearts, separating themselves from the ordinary. Do you see how even in our own lives, true encounters with God demand preparation, purity of spirit, reverence, and surrender? Yet, the command carried a warning of holy boundaries. Do not let the people ascend the mountain or even touch its edge, for whoever touches it must surely die. The mountain, ordinary stone before, was now wrapped in divine fire. It became sacred ground, untouchable by human hands. Only when the trumpet blast would sound could they approach, and even then, only as God allowed. To stand at the edge of the camp in those days must have been a trembling experience, knowing that one misstep could bring death, yet also knowing that beyond that boundary waited the living voice of God. Moses descended once more into the camp, his steps carrying the weight of heaven's command. With deliberate care, he carried out everything God had spoken to him, instructing the people with precision, and the Israelites obeyed. For 2 days they purified themselves, washing their garments, cleansing their minds, and waiting in holy anticipation. Families sat together under their tents, whispering about what was to come, while the leaders moved among them, reminding all that this was no ordinary preparation. Each hour felt longer than the last, for all knew that the third day would not pass like any other. When the morning of that third day arrived, creation itself seemed to awaken differently. The camp stirred as the ground beneath their feet quivered with a hidden force. Suddenly, thunder cracked across the heavens, so fierce it seemed the sky itself was breaking apart. Lightning flared, slashing the air with blinding brilliance, striking near the mountain's peak. Then the mountain itself vanished within a dense, a living cloud, a veil so thick that Sinai looked less like stone and more like a throne wrapped in mystery. Even the strongest men trembled, for this was no storm of nature. This was the descent of the Almighty. Then it came the blast of a trumpet, long and piercing. No hand of Israel had raised it. No lips had sounded it. Its voice thundered over the camp, sharp and unrelenting, echoing off the desert stones until every heart shook in terror. The people poured from their tents, compelled by both fear and awe. They could hear the sound resounding all around them, yet its source remained hidden. Was it rising from the mountain's heart? Was it flowing from the heavens themselves? Or was it the very breath of God? As they stood, trembling, the voice of the Eternal broke through the storm. A voice mightier than thunder, yet clearer than the trumpet. I am Jehovah your God, the one who brought you out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not bow down to them or serve them. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. For I will not hold guiltless anyone who misuses my name. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land I am giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet anything that belongs to your neighbor. Their seed the Ramah, each commandment fell like fire upon their ears. Not merely rules to live by, but declarations that bound heaven and earth together. The God who split seas and shattered Egypt's pride now revealed the path for his chosen people. These words would shape the destiny of nations, echoing through centuries. And yet, could frail humanity ever bear such a holy standard? The mountain still roared with thunder, wrapped in lightning and smoke, as if heaven itself had descended to earth. The trumpet blast echoed again and again, reverberating through the desert air until the very ground seemed alive beneath their feet. Faced with such a spectacle, the Israelites trembled in terror. Their bodies shook. But it was not only the sound and sight that unsettled them, it was the undeniable weight of God's holiness pressing on their souls. So they kept their distance, unable to draw near the blazing presence that crowned Mount Sinai. Moses, steadfast, though his heart must have pounded like theirs, turned to the people and called out with a voice of courage, "Come closer, God desires to meet with all of you, not only with me." Yet their answer revealed the depth of their fear. With voices cracking, they pleaded, "No, Moses, you go for us. Speak with him yourself, and then tell us his words, and we will listen. But if he speaks to us directly, we will surely die." Can you hear the desperation in their response? To them, the holy voice of God felt like fire, too great for mortal flesh to endure. Moses tried to calm them. "Do not be afraid. God has come to test you, so that his fear may remain with you and keep you from sin." But the people could not be persuaded. They stood back, trembling, refusing to move closer to the mountain. And God, who knew the weakness of their hearts, heard their cry and granted them a boundary of mercy. Then the voice of the Lord spoke again to Moses with clarity and command. "Say this to the Israelites, you yourselves have heard my voice from heaven. Do not make gods of silver to rival me, nor gods of gold to bow before. Instead, build for me an altar of earth. On it you may offer your sheep and your bulls in sacrifice, and wherever my name is honored, there I will come and bless you." The message was simple yet profound. God desired no ornate idols fashioned by human pride, only humble altars of earth, places where his people could remember him with sincerity of heart. How striking is that contrast! Nations around them worshipped with glittering images, yet the true God asked for dust and stone, sanctified only by obedience and faith. Then came the most solemn instruction of all. God called Moses once more, "Come up to me on the mountain." Here I will give you all my commandments, statutes, and judgments. You must teach them to the people, so they will live by them in the land I am giving to them. This was no ordinary assent. The destiny of a nation hung in the balance, and the words to be spoken would lay the very foundation of covenant life with God. And so Moses prepared himself to climb again. Joshua, his faithful servant, walked part of the way with him. The young man vowed to remain nearby, waiting at the appointed place until Moses returned. Higher and higher Moses went, leaving behind the camp, the trembling multitude, and the smoke that still wrapped Sinai like a crown of fire. Each step carried him deeper into the mystery of God's presence, where laws for an entire people, and indeed for the world, were waiting to be revealed. There, upon the mountain, shrouded in cloud and fire, Moses entered into a dialogue unlike any ever recorded in human history. The voice of God did not thunder this time as it had before the people. It lingered. It instructed. It revealed. In patient detail, the Lord unfolded his commandments, etching into the heart of Moses the laws that would become the spine of a nation. Then, with his own hand, God inscribed those words upon 2 stone tablets, giving Moses not just spoken commands, but a tangible covenant carved in rock, permanent, immovable, unchanging. These stones bore more than words. They bore the very breath of eternity. The conversation went further. God explained not only the laws of justice, but the way of life for his chosen people, how they were to worship him, how they were to treat one another, how they were to stand as a beacon of righteousness among nations who bowed before idols of gold and silver. You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. His words would later echo in Scripture, Leviticus 19:2. Through these instructions, Israel was being shaped into something altogether different, a community marked not by oppression or greed, but by justice, mercy, and generosity. Can you sense how radical this must have sounded in a world where power ruled and the weak were forgotten? But the Lord's desire was not merely to instruct from afar. His longing was to dwell among his people. He revealed to Moses a plan almost architectural in its beauty and mystery. I will make my dwelling among them, he declared, and I will be their God. Exodus 29:45. To accomplish this, he gave Moses the design for a sacred dwelling place, a tabernacle. Every measurement, every detail was given with precision, as though heaven's blueprint were unfolding before human eyes. God described the garments of the priests, woven with fine linen and adorned with sacred symbols, each thread proclaiming that those who served before him must come clothed in holiness. He spoke of the outer courtyard, where a great altar would stand, receiving the offerings of sheep and bulls brought in reverence. Beyond it would rise the tent itself, divided into holy spaces, each one marking a step closer to the unseeable glory of God. At the very heart of this design stood a chamber unlike any other, the Holy of Holies. Within it would rest the Ark of the Covenant, a golden chest overshadowed by angelic figures with wings outstretched. Upon its cover, the mercy seat. The presence of God would descend. This was not ornament for ornament's sake. Every symbol carried memory and meaning. The ark recalled the paradise of Eden, where God once walked with humankind. The cherubim engraved upon it echoed the guardians of the garden's gate, holding both mystery and promise. Though Eden had been lost, God was now drawing near again, choosing to dwell among his people. What nation had ever heard of such a thing that the infinite Creator would take up residence in the midst of mortals. The tabernacle was more than fabric and gold. It was a declaration that holiness was no longer distant. Could the Israelites truly grasp what it meant? That heaven itself was bending low to walk with them again. Time passed. One day folded into another. And still Moses did not descend from the mountain wrapped in cloud and fire. The people stared toward Sinai's peak. But the figure of their leader was nowhere to be seen. At first, they reassured one another. Surely he would return soon. Yet as the days dragged on, anxiety hardened into fear, and fear fermented into doubt. Whispers spread across the camp. Moses has been consumed. No man could stand so long in the presence of God and live. What had once been faith began to crumble under the weight of impatience. Finally, their unease erupted into rebellion. They gathered around Aaron, the brother of Moses, and pressed him with desperate voices. Moses is surely dead. We can no longer wait. Give us a God, something we can see, something we can touch. Did not Egypt have gods of gold? Why should ours remain invisible? The irony was sharp. They had just heard the voice of the true God thunder from the mountain, commanding, "You shall not make for yourself an idol of silver or gold." Exodus 20:23. Yet already, their hearts longed to return to the false comfort of Egypt's idols. How quickly the human heart forgets when fear takes root. Aaron hesitated. His words carried a trace of warning. Wait a little longer. Moses will return. But the crowd surged louder, their cries drowning out caution. We will not wait any longer. Give us a God now, pressed by the tide of their demands. Aaron gave way. Then bring me all the gold you can find, he said, his voice weary, perhaps already knowing the weight of compromise. The people scattered through their tents, gathering earrings, ornaments, treasures they had carried from Egypt, and piled them before him. With fire, Aaron melted the gold until it flowed like liquid sun. From the molten stream he shaped an image, a calf, gleaming and solid, lifeless yet dazzling to eyes, hungry for something visible. When it stood completed, Aaron lifted his voice and declared before the multitude, "Israel, here are your gods, the ones who will go before you." The words twisted like a dagger through the very covenant they had pledged only days before. The following dawn broke not with quiet reverence but with reckless abandon. The people rose early, but not to seek the true God. Instead, they prepared offerings for the calf of gold. They built altars, laid sacrifices, and then abandoned themselves to celebration. They ate until they were full, drank until restraint was forgotten, and filled the camp with songs of revelry. Men and women danced around the idol, their laughter and shouts echoing through the valley. What had been consecrated ground now turned into a festival of betrayal. Can you feel the tension? A people once chosen to be holy, now bowing before a calf of their own making. A covenant sealed by thunder and lightning, already broken in the shadows of impatience. It was not only disobedience, it was spiritual amnesia. They forgot the Red Sea, forgot the manna, forgot the God whose voice had shaken Sinai. And so the feast of the golden calf became one of Israel's darkest hours. 40 days had passed since Moses first ascended into the cloud that crowned Mount Sinai. To the people below, the days felt like eternity. But in the heights, Moses had been wrapped in the voice and presence of God, receiving instructions that would shape generations. Yet even as God spoke of holiness and covenant, his tone shifted. heavy with grief and fire. "Moses," the Lord declared, "go down at once. The people you brought up from Egypt have corrupted themselves. Too quickly have they turned aside from the path I commanded. They have fashioned an idol, bowed before it, and offered sacrifices to it, saying, 'These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt.' I see their hearts. They are a stiff-necked, stubborn people. My wrath will burn hot against them, and I will consume them. But from you, Moses, I will raise a new and greater nation." Things watching, the mountain itself seemed to tremble with those words. Yet Moses fell before God in bold intercession, with the passion of a shepherd unwilling to abandon his flock. He pleaded, "O Lord, turn away your fierce anger. Do not destroy your people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants, to whom you swore by your own name, saying, 'I will multiply your descendants as the stars of heaven and give them this land forever.' If you consume them now, what will the Egyptians say? That you brought them out only to kill them in the wilderness?" His prayer rose like incense, daring to remind the Almighty of his own promises. And Scripture tells us, the Lord relented from the disaster he had spoken of, bringing on his people, Exodus 32-14. With the tablets of stone in his hands, engraved by the very finger of God, Moses descended the mountain. At his side was Joshua, faithful and watchful. As they drew near the camp, Joshua strained his ears and said, "It sounds like the cry of war." But Moses, with the discernment of a leader who knew both triumph and betrayal, answered, "It is not the sound of victory, nor the sound of defeat. What you hear is the sound of singing." "Thank you." And then they saw it. The golden calf glimmered in the desert sun, surrounded by a multitude dancing, shouting, and feasting. The very people who had pledged, "All that the Lord has spoken, we will do," were now bowing before the work of their own hands. Moses, carrying the covenant of heaven, was overcome with righteous fury. His hands shook, not from weakness, but from holy indignation. And he hurled the stone tablets to the ground. They shattered into fragments, a symbol of the covenant already broken by the people themselves. His voice thundered over the camp, "You are a people steeped in sin. How could you turn aside so quickly after all the wonders the Lord has done for you?" He seized the calf, cast it into the fire, ground it into powder, and scattered it upon the water, forcing the people to drink their own shame. Each gulp was a bitter reminder that their betrayal could not be hidden. Aaron, trembling under the weight of his brother's anger, tried to explain, "Do not let your wrath burn against me. The people are uncontrollable. They said to me, 'Make us gods,' for we do not know what has become of Moses. So I gathered their gold, cast it into the fire, and out came this calf." His words rang hollow, a weak defense against the gravity of the people's sin. But Moses was not finished. He called out, summoning those who had bowed before the idol to face judgment. The time of testing had revealed their hearts, and their punishment would remind Israel that sin against a holy God is never a small matter. That day, the people learned that the covenant they had broken carried a cost heavier than gold, a cost that could not be danced away with music and feasts. Time passed after the shameful day of the golden calf, yet the memory of broken tablets and broken trust still hung heavy over the camp. The people mourned, stripped of their ornaments, subdued by the knowledge that they had betrayed the God who brought them out of Egypt. But Moses, carrying the burden of both leader and intercessor, could not rest. Once again, he turned his face toward the mountain that had burned with fire, determined to plead for the lives of those who had stumbled so greatly. Ascending Sinai once more, Moses bowed low before the Lord and poured out his heart with words that carried both sorrow and courage. This people has committed a great sin. They have made for themselves a false god of gold. Yet I beg, you grant them forgiveness. But if you will not forgive them, then blot me out of the book you have written. His plea was staggering. The voice of a shepherd willing to lay down his own place in eternity for the sake of his flock. Does this not foreshadow the greater intercession to come, the one who would later give his very life to redeem sinners? The Lord's reply was solemn but merciful. Those who have sinned against me will be erased from my book. But you, Moses, need not bear their guilt. Go now, lead the people to the place I promised. My angel will go before you. I will still guide them. With these words, God affirmed that the covenant would not be abandoned. Even though his people had failed, his justice would remain, but his mercy would still light the path. Then the Lord gave a new command to Moses, one filled with both discipline and hope. Cut out for yourself 2 stone tablets like the first ones you shattered. Upon them I will write the same words that were on the former tablets. Prepare yourself. Tomorrow, come up again to meet me on this mountain. The broken covenant would not be the final word. God was willing to renew it, to restore what human hands and human weakness had destroyed. That night, Moses prepared. With hammer and chisel, he carved the cold stone, shaping 2 tablets to mirror the ones he had hurled in righteous anger. The sound of iron striking rock must have echoed through the camp, a rhythm of repentance. Each strike a reminder of both judgment and grace. For the dawn would bring yet another ascent, another encounter with the living God, and another chance for Israel to be bound once more to the covenant of holiness. At dawn, when the desert was still wrapped in silence and the shadows of night clung to the earth, Moses rose and set out once again toward the mountain of God. In his hands he carried the 2 stone tablets he had carved with painstaking care. Each step upward was heavy, yet his heart was steady. He knew this climb was more than a journey of stone and earth. It was the ascent of a mediator standing between a holy God and a frail, faltering people. As he reached the appointed place, the mountain stirred. The cloud of God's presence descended once more, thick and radiant, cloaking Sinai in mystery. The Lord himself came down in glory and stood beside Moses. Overwhelmed, Moses fell prostrate to the ground, pressing his face to the dust. His body trembled. His eyes remained shut, for the brilliance of divine majesty was too much for mortal sight. From his lips flowed unceasing words of adoration, whisper after whisper, declaring the greatness of the Lord. Yet even in worship, his heart pleaded forgiveness for the people, mercy for those who had stumbled, restoration for a nation still marked by failure. And the Lord answered with grace. His voice, both thunderous and tender, declared his character, the Lord God, merciful and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness, keeping covenant to 1,000 generations, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin. Exodus 34-6-7. In that moment, The covenant fractured by the golden calf was healed by the mercy of heaven. God renewed his promise, assuring Moses that his presence would not depart. Once again, he pledged to lead Israel to the land sworn to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, a land flowing with milk and honey. Then, with his own authority, God gave again the commandments, word by word. He reaffirmed the covenant that defined his people, etching into eternity the law that would guide them. Moses, humbled and awed, recorded the words upon the new tablets, replacing what had been shattered in anger with what was now sealed in mercy. These tablets were not just stone, they were the second chance of a nation, carried in the arms of the man who had dared to plead for them before the throne of heaven. When Moses rose from that encounter, his face itself would later shine with the reflection of God's glory, though he knew it not. The people would soon see the radiance and understand. Their leader had spoken with the eternal, and their God, though just and holy, had chosen once more to dwell with them, to guide them, and to keep his promise alive. For 40 days and 40 nights, Moses remained upon the mountain, alone with the eternal. No food passed his lips, no water touched his tongue. Yet he did not grow weak, for he was sustained by the very presence of God. Day by day, in the silence of Sinai's summit, Moses listened, wrote, and absorbed the holy words that would shape a nation. Unlike the first time, when impatience had driven the people into sin, this time the camp below waited faithfully. They remembered the cost of rebellion, and they held their breath in expectation, guarding their hearts until their leader returned. At last the appointed time came. From the heights of Sinai, Moses began his descent, cradling in his arms the 2 stone tablets newly inscribed with the commandments of God. These were not mere stones, they were the covenant reborn, a second chance sealed in mercy. As he drew nearer to the camp, the Israelites lifted their eyes and saw something strange upon the horizon. A light shimmered against the desert air, growing brighter with every step. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. What is that light? Is it fire? Is it a sign from heaven? But as the figure approached, recognition dawned. It was Moses. Yet he did not look as he had before. His face blazed with radiance, shining with a brilliance that no human flame could produce. It was as if the very light of Sinai had settled upon him. The people gasped and stepped back in awe and fear. Scripture later records, when Aaron and all the Israelites saw Moses, his face was radiant, and they were afraid to come near him. Exodus 34-30. They could not endure the brilliance of one who had stood in the nearness of God. Moses himself was unaware. He did not know that his skin glowed like the sun, that his countenance bore the reflection of divine glory. It was simply the afterglow of communion, the mark of a man who had spoken with God as one speaks with a friend. What a mystery! That dust from the earth could shine with the light of heaven, gently. Moses called to them, assuring them there was no danger. Slowly, trembling, the people drew near, and there, in the valley beneath Sinai's towering peak, Moses recited to them all that the Lord had spoken. He read the commandments, explained the statutes, and unfolded the covenant that had been renewed. Through these laws, the Israelites would know how to live, how to worship, how to walk in holiness before the God who had chosen them. The shining face of Moses became a living testimony that obedience and fellowship with the Almighty transform even the frailest of humans. It was not just his words, but his very countenance that declared the glory of God. The people had asked for gods of gold, lifeless and mute, yet here stood their true mediator, radiant with the living presence of the Lord, carrying the words that would bind heaven and earth together. Yet the brilliance upon Moses' face did not fade quickly. Day after day, whenever he returned from speaking with the Lord, his countenance shone with the same unearthly radiance. The people, though they longed to hear the words of God, trembled at the sight of such glory reflected in a mortal face. They stood back in awe, unable to fix their eyes upon him for long. And so Moses, after proclaiming to them every word the Lord had spoken, took a veil and covered his face. This became his practice. Whenever he entered the tent of meeting to stand in the Lord's presence, he removed the veil, uncovering his face before the one who sees all things. There, unveiled, he spoke with God as a man speaks with a friend, and the glory of the Lord renewed its mark upon him. Then, when he went out to deliver God's commands to the people, they beheld the radiance once more, until he covered himself again. The veil became a sign, a reminder that the holy glory of God is more than human hearts can bear without trembling. And so the story of Sinai closed not only with stone tablets carried in Moses' hands, but with light shining from his very face. The commandments revealed the path of obedience, but the radiance revealed something deeper, that fellowship with God transforms those who draw near to him. The people feared the light, yet it testified that the Eternal had not abandoned them. His glory was in their midst, veiled yet present, dwelling with his chosen nation. The journey of Moses at Mount Sinai was more than ancient history. It was the moment when heaven reached down to earth, when God himself gave his people not only laws, but a covenant of love, mercy, and purpose. The 10 Commandments were never meant to be a burden. They were meant to be a compass, pointing a wandering people toward holiness, justice, and compassion. Even when Israel stumbled, even when they forged a golden calf in their impatience, God's mercy refused to abandon them. He renewed his promise, and through Moses' intercession, he reminded them and us that grace is greater than failure. To me, what moves my heart most is not just the thunder or the fire on Sinai, but the fact that Moses, an ordinary man, became radiant simply because he spent time in God's presence. That tells me something personal. True transformation doesn't begin with power, wealth, or status, but with drawing near to the one who is holy. In today's world, so loud, so restless, so filled with distractions, don't we need that same light? A light that can guide us through confusion, inspire us to live with integrity, and remind us that God's presence is still with us. The lesson of Sinai is clear. When we listen to God's voice and allow his truth to shape us, we become living reflections of his glory. And just like Israel, we are invited to rise above fear, idolatry, and impatience, and walk as a people set apart, people of light, in a world too often covered in shadows. If this story touched you, let's keep spreading its message together. Like this video, share it with those who need encouragement, and subscribe to the channel. Tap the notification bell so you don't miss the next message. And leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear how this story speaks to you. Thank you deeply to everyone who supports, whether through a simple like or even a super thanks. Your encouragement means the world. And together, we're building a community of faith, hope, and truth. May you walk this week with the assurance that God's light still shines, and may His blessing rest upon you and your household.